What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Totally Inspired with me, your girl Sibo Dube. Today is Sunday, the 6th of June. It's one of those Sundays, one of those days in Johannesburg where the weather is really cold. Churches are open for people to go and worship. And I'm one of those people that woke up this morning and decided to go to church. And of course, where I fellowship, we'll make sure that we follow the COVID protocols and just make sure that the social distancing and everything that needs to happen to make sure the congregants are safe is taken into account. As you might know, this channel touches on so many topics, and one of them is actually the topic of faith, where we speak to one another and encourage one another in our faith. Like 80% of people that live in South Africa, I am a Christian. That is why I was in church this morning. Before I get into the details of what I'm going to share today, I would like to encourage you and remind you that please like, please subscribe, and please share. Like I always say, you never know who will benefit from listening to and watching this video, because that is what people need nowadays. People need words of encouragement. People need kindness. People need to be shown that they are loved and appreciated. People need to hear a word that will help them to pick themselves up, especially on a day where they are going to be facing the week ahead. We don't know where people are going in their different directions during the course of the week. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a message that I shared with the congregants at our church this morning. I was privileged and honored to be able to share about 5 minutes of a word of encouragement before the service started, before the main service started. And we normally do that where somebody shares a few words of encouragement before the main service begins. So today I had the privilege to be that person that shares that message. And after I shared the message, I had a few people who actually gave me feedback saying they really felt encouraged. They liked the concept of what I was sharing. And I thought, you know what, when I get home, what better way to share and cement this message than actually sharing it on this channel. Matthew chapter 13 verses 3 to 8, and it was the NIV version. A farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no roots. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still, other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown. So the message here was really to talk to people about the concept of giving. So my message was simply looking at 3 kingdom principles around the concept of sowing and reaping. I shared 3 kingdom principles, and the first one was around sowing generously. And the language of reaping and sowing is very familiar to people who are in farming, and it's also very familiar for Christians. And if I can go back to the example of farming, where reaping and sowing is actually a principle that farmers will understand very well. In farming, there is a way of planting, or let me say a way of sowing, which is called broadcasting. It actually reminds me of the reference to the word scattering of seed that we see here in this verse, in verse 4. When you broadcast, you actually put your hand in the seeds that you have. You don't even count the seeds. You throw them generously on the field that you plan to sow in. And when you broadcast, you don't even look at how much you have taken. You don't even hold back. You actually scatter, just like the verse says here. And then there is what is called precision planting. Precision planting looks at precisely how you are planting. It counts the seeds. It looks at the depth of where you're going to plant the seed. It looks at the distance between the one seed and the next. I encourage people to say, when you give, go all out, don't hold back, because that is what the Bible teaches us. In the book of Proverbs, we are told that there are people who give by scattering, they give generously, and yet they get richer, they get wealthier, they get more fulfilled. And then there are those that hold back. And those that hold back, normally the Bible tells us that they are actually in poverty. Then the second point that we talked about, or the second point that I touched on, was the importance of the conditions. Here I looked at the condition of the heart of the giver. When you invest your money, or when you give of your resources in places where you are investing in your fleshly passions, in the worldly passions, there is no rooting there is no grounding, and your reaping or your harvest, it's going to wither away very quickly. But if you invest in your passions, in your spiritual passions, you are bound to find that the harvest is more fulfilling. Can you imagine if you're spending your money on things that are not fulfilling for the purposes of God's kingdom or the kingdom agenda? What will become of your harvest? If you're investing in taking, clothing accounts, things like that are bound to be the harvest. And as we will see in my next point, a harvest tends to be multiplied. So you buy on credit, but when you have to pay back, you pay back way more than the amount of the purchase of whatever you're buying was. And if you've invested in a life of careless living, where you are eating anyhow, where you are consuming unhealthy food, and you're bound to harvest ill health. It's important that we sow our resources, our money, our material possession to things that we know are going to edify the next person, make the next person better. Invest and sow in things that we know when we harvest, we are harvesting from our spiritual passions. And I'd like to encourage you today that even as you begin the week ahead, you look around you and see who is in need, who needs to be helped, be it your co-workers, be it your neighbors. Don't be that person who's spiritually blind to the needs of others. Your generosity will go a long way. Finally, the other kingdom principle around giving is that the 1-on-1 ratio does not apply. What do I mean by that? It's just like how when you plant an orange seed, the seed is only one. But when you harvest a big orange tree with many other oranges. So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm encouraging you to give more, because when you give, it's not like you're losing in any way. Instead, you're bound to harvest multiple times, and you're going to get bigger satisfaction out of the good that you're doing for your fellow men. Just as the Bible promises, when you give, you're going to be given a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So much so that you can't even contain it. I hope my message will encourage you to be a more generous person, a more giving person, a person that is looking out to be kind to other people. If I may remind you that generosity is giving more than you can, whilst greed is taking more than you need. Do you really need all the things that you're holding on to? Somebody might need them more than you do. Some of us are piling lots of things in our homes. It's cold out here. Other people don't have blankets. They're sleeping under bridges. Other people don't have clothes. They don't have food. And you and your family are probably wasting food, throwing stuff in the bin, or you've just packed clothes that you're not using that are sitting in your cupboards, old blankets. Let go of those things. You're not going to lose anything, but rather you're going to be gratified by the feeling that you'll get after having helped another person. But more than that, God is going to thank you and remind you of this very day, or this very act of kindness, when you are finally rewarded for investing in your spiritual passion. I saw something on social media that really, really touched my heart, and it resonated with me, where somebody actually posted a poster, I think, that I saw, and it said, "Today, you could be talking to someone who is trying their best not to fall apart. So whatever you do today, do it with kindness in your heart." May I encourage all of us, when we begin this week, let us be kind to all the people that we meet. We don't know what people are going through. You could be that person that could mend them by your kind word or your act of kindness. Or you could be that person that actually breaks them, and that should not be you. Let us be kind, let us encourage one another, and let us go out there and be a good example of kindness and generosity. Well, that's it for me today. Have a good week, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again on another video. God bless.
So there you have it, queens. Hope you had been inspired by today's video, and that you'll go out and be more and do more, because you deserve a full life. Before you go, remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of this inspiring content, and do share my link with your circle of queens. Until next time, keep inspiring.